welcome to the one and only Team Tszyu.
G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, May the 19th, 2025, and always great to have you along. Not a massively entertaining weekend as far as boxing goes, was it? But we have got a lot to look forward to in the next few weeks. Lots of boxing cards coming up, lots of news being announced both here in Australia and overseas. So it should be a fantastic couple of months on the horizon. Now, if you haven't watched this show before, the way it works, that's what it says there. It's Talking Boxing. Put your comment, opinion, remark, whatever you want to call it, in the chat. And as it says there, we'll talk some boxing and get into it. We've got a couple in the chat already. We've got there Big J. What's that there? Hey, mate, great chat on Friday. Thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, no drama. You haven't seen that, guys. Check it out. Big J's channel. We had a chat on Friday afternoon about a few different things. Gallen versus Sonny Bill Williams announcement tomorrow. What's that? Only 10 years too late. Getting my ticket to Crawford event in Melbourne this week. Yeah, well, look, I'm not really across the Gallen Sonny Bill Williams thing, Big J, but I think they are fighting around State of Origin, isn't it? Now, State of Origin is actually the 28th, so is it the next one? I'm assuming they're going to fight after or before, whenever it's going to be. I hope Gallen gets a job, mate, but it's, again, not really my thing. I don't really stress too much about the rugby league, boys. I almost said rugby. I know that's sacrilege. I can't say it, but yeah, I'll probably tune in anyway. It depends on what they want to, as far as money goes, to watch it, isn't it? There's no way I'm going to pay money. I'm assuming it's going to be pay-per-view, isn't it? Let me know. What's that? Getting my ticket to Crawford and what's that? Crawford event in Melbourne. Sorry. Off to a slow start tonight. Yeah, it should be good. If you haven't got your tickets, guys, jump on trybooking.com and buy a seat at the Melbourne Pavilion Gala dinner. It's on the 29th of May, which is, a Thursday night? So next Thursday. Should be a fantastic night. So $500, jump on there. You can buy a table of 10 or just buy 1, 2 tickets, whatever it might be. So show your support. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, Big J. What's that there? Bring back the weekly roundup. It was your best show. Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. The one show that I've axed, and you reckon it's my best show? Oh, look, I pretty much do a daily roundup, Big J. That's why I stopped doing it, because, I'm talking about boxing for 20 to 25 minutes every single morning, talking about what's happening in the world. The roundup was more of a news-based type of sort of setup, but yeah, when I get on there for every morning talking about what's going on, man, I don't really see the sense in sort of getting on at the end of the week and just telling everyone what they already know. What do we got there? Eminem, how are you there, mate? I'm just going to get this microphone out the right. I can't really see there. Cooper O'Connell, Brandon Grush, and Amber Amelia, all back on June 21st. Not a No Limit show. Now, I did bring this up before. I did have a quick look at remarks before I went on air. Eminem. Now, this is being presented by Nathan Swadling. Now, pretty sure Nathan was a fighter back in the day. Just excuse me. I'm going to actually put that over there, else my face looks like it's burning. All right, so I'll just move the microphone so I don't cut out. But yeah, it is in Windale, New South Wales. Now, I actually Google mapped this, and it's about a 20-minute drive from Newcastle, so I'm assuming that's what it is, Eminem. All the fighters are from, not Cooper O'Connell, of course, but Brandon and Amber are both from Newcastle, so this is obviously a show to have them on. Now, just looking there, so Brandon's on there, Amber's on there, Cooper. I don't recognise any of the other fighters on there, if I'm being honest. Sorry, guys. But there is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights on the card. Mostly 4 and 6 rounders. Excuse me. But if you're up that way, yeah, go and support it, because, geez, having Cooper O'Connell, Brandon Grush, and Amber Amelia on the same card, that's a ripper night of boxing. So get down and support them. And also, looks like the new promoters, Nathan Swadling, looks like he's might be actually his wife is the promoter and Nathan is the matchmaker. And the event is Friendly Fire. So get down there to the Windale Bowling Club is where the fight's going to be. So should be a great night. And if you're in the area, support the locals there. Eminem, speaking of No Limit, surely some announcements coming very soon. There's got to be Eminem because what have we got? Well, the Tim Tszyu card hasn't been officially announced yet, has it? I know we're all sort of talking about it and getting organised, but still no official announcement. So what are we, 7 weeks away? No, we're not. We are 8 weeks away. Hang on. What was the date on the weekend? So it'll be, so yesterday was the 18th. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks away. So I think within another week, Eminem, I think you'll see they'll announce that fight with Sebastian Fundora. I've got a feeling they might be waiting on the Manny Pacquiao Mario Barrios official announcement. You got to remember Tim Tszyu and Fundora is the main support bout or co-main on that card. It's not the main event, so they will be under obligations from the promoters, PBC, I think, isn't it, to do the Manny Pacquiao and the Mario Barrios announcement. But it can't be too far away now. As far as the others go, yeah, look, what are we? They're talking about the Liam Paro. I think actually Liam Wilson was going to be on that card as well, but definitely the Liam Paro event. Not so sure about what's happening with Nikita, but they did put out their schedule at the start of the year, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but they've already had the first one, of course, with Sam Goodman, but I'm not sure what's happening with the others, mate. But yeah, not a lot going on at the moment, is there, with No Limit and their announcements? Another one from Eminem. August 9th, John Manu versus Alexander Deviatov. Should be a cracker fight. Kamako versus the Tanzanian. Also on the card now. Yes, I did actually look that one up as well there, mate. And so John Manu, 15-1-1 against Alexander Deviatov, who's 16-0. Hasn't fought for a year, though. I don't really recognise a lot of the fighters on his record either, I'm being honest. I don't think I know any of the guys on there. Now, he had most of his fights earlier. Look where he's actually fought. Russia. Where's that? Spain. Greece. Looks like Russia again. And Australia. So he's had 2 fights in Australia. One at the Malvern Town Hall back in 23. And his last fight, which was May last year, against, I can't pronounce his name. Was it Karthik Kumar? That was on the Gold Coast. So look at that Malvern card. Who promoted? Yeah, Peter. I thought that might have been Peter Maniatis back in July 2023. Yeah, so no, it should be a really good card. That and like you said, Kamako on the undercard. Now, look, I love Kamako and what he brings to the table, but I think he's gonna have to do better. I know he talks a lot about knowing his worth and wanting to get paid, and I get that. But I just don't see the sense, if I'm being honest, of fighting a Tanzanian. I know he's 7-0, so if you go in the box rec, his name's Amir Matumla, 7-0, and that's great. But he's fought all other Tanzanians, so let's not get too excited. Kamako's last fight, I was pretty vocal about that. It was a first-round stoppage of Boniface Saguda. Now, he was 10-1. This is what I'm saying. And looked like he'd done about 3 lessons down at the local YMCA. That's how bad he was. Now, I know Joel's doing his best to get good fights. I know he's trying to land some of those fights with the Hardmans and those types of guys. Maybe Nikita, I don't know. But I don't know why he'd even bother getting in the ring. Another Tanzania now. Again, I'm a big fan of Joel. He's a great guy. Real character on social media, and more importantly, he does he does know his worth, and this is not going to fight for nothing, and I get that, and I respect that. But I mean, as I said, like, to go through the motions with this guy, which will probably be another first or second round knockout, is it really worth the drama of bringing him out here? And I just think you do your brand a bit of damage. Look, the last guy, I don't know. I know he was a late replacement. I think of another Tanzanian. Was he from Tanzania? I can't remember. Whatever. Does it matter? Probably doesn't. Let's have a quick look. I think he was from Tanzania. He's from Tanzania. So this will be his second straight fight with the Tanzania. Now, my question is, I know he's got a devoted fan base, and they all love Kamako, and he always sells a lot of tickets. I've promoted Joel before. But surely, when the call goes out to buy a table or a seat or whatever it is on this one, even his most ardent supporters would be saying, oh, all right, but I really don't want to do it. I mean, $3,000-$4,000 a table or whatever it might be. As soon as you see he's a Tanzanian, you've just got to sort of roll your eyes. But look, again, I'm a big fan of Joel Kamako, and I'll try and he says it all the time. He's social media, Joel Kamako Leary here, which he does it really well. But yeah, look, he's a real character of the sport. I think he deserves better than what he's getting at the moment, but maybe he's got to go against the grain a little bit and speak with one of the leading promoters and try and hook his sort of wagon to one of them, because to fight on these Melbourne cards, I know he's loyal to, actually I was going to say Sam LeBruna, but it's not Sam LeBruna, it's Rob Fogarty promoting this one. I know he's loyal to those guys, and they have a great relationship, and they look after him, he looks after them with good sales and all that sort of stuff and promoting the event. But geez, when this is the best you've got to offer, I don't know. I know it must be frustrating for him, and I know the way the pros work. I know you just can't snap your fingers and get big fights and big paydays. But if I was Joel, it might just be, if he's serious about making another splash in his career. I mean, he's mid-30s now. I'm just not sure whether this is a way to go. I mean, where is he going? I suppose that's the big question. Where exactly is he going with 2 straight wins over Tanzanian walking punching bags, basically, novices? So I know he doesn't want to fight for the lesser paydays, but surely this fight couldn't generate that much. He'd probably have to pay for the guy to come. He would be forking out all the expenses, probably picking him up from the airport, going to take him to get medicals. That's just not what he should be doing. I mean, maybe talk to the, he's got Brian Amatruda in Melbourne. I'm not sure what Brian's up to these days. Not really doing big shows anymore. But, the No Limits and Tasman Fighters, I mean, I don't know. I'd just be doing whatever I can. Even, Will Tomlinson in Melbourne. But to fight this guy who's 7-0 against fellow Tanzanians, I don't know. If that was, I'm just putting myself in Kamako's position. If that's the best I can probably get to offer at this stage of my career, I'd just give it away. Why bother? Unless there's a promise out there for Kamako down the track from one of those promoters about maybe it's an Akita fight, maybe he's been told just have a couple of fights to keep busy, then we'll look at your end of the year. I don't know. But if you're purposely going out of your way to fight 2 Tanzanians in a row who are both going to get, first one was stopped in the first round. This one looks like he will as well. I don't get it. I feel for him, but I don't get it. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents, guys. All right, Tom's dad, Naz. Good evening to the best online community in boxing. Thanks, Naz. Appreciate that, mate. Anyone know why Sela is now promoting Canelo versus Crawford? Trouble in paradise with TKO already? Yeah, I spoke about this morning, Naz, on Walking Boxing. I did see it overnight on their sites, and no explanation's been given yet. This is the strange thing. Nothing has been said about it. Now, if you don't know, I'm sure you do, Dana White and TKO Boxing, or whatever it's called now, it will change, of course, is no longer the promoter. I mean, as recently as late last week, Dana White was talking about maybe putting this on UFC Fight Pass and the way he was going to structure it. And then, 4 days later, 5 days later, he's no longer in the gang. He's out. So I'm sure nothing's amiss with Turki Al-Sheikh, but maybe Dana White has come to Turki Al-Sheikh and has said, look, this is my first boxing event. I don't like these massive events. And he said that he doesn't like the stadium shows and all that sort of stuff. So maybe he's gone to Turki Al-Sheikh and said, look, I'm having troubles with the network, getting a broadcaster and a venue because they've changed the date. So it can't be in Las Vegas with the current date. So it's going to have, it is in Las Vegas. It'll have to be somewhere else. And they don't want it like at the MGM or somewhere. They want it, or even actually, I think T-Mobile's the reason why they're at Allegiant, because there's a concert or something there. They don't want to do it at the MGM because it only seats 15 or 16,000. They want a big stadium for this. So it can't be in Las Vegas. So they're looking all over. So maybe Dana White said, look, I've got another big UFC event on that night, I think it is, or that weekend. Maybe he said, look, this is too big an event for me straight off the bat. Get someone else to do it. And, because it's something I just can't handle. And Turki Al-Sheikh's just taken it back and they're going to do it themselves. The big question for me is, though, I know Golden Boy can't be involved. But why wouldn't they have gone to, say, Eddie Hearn and Turki Al Sheikh said to Eddie, you take it. This is right up Eddie Hearn's alley, by the way. A big event. He loves Canelo. I'm not sure his relationship with Terence Crawford, but he loves Canelo. He's promoted him before a couple of times. They've got a good working relationship. It just is something going on underneath that we just don't know about, because all of a sudden Oscar and Eddie seem like they're out the gang and they don't seem too stressed about it. And now this has happened with Dana White, now looking like he's either passed it back to Turki Al Sheikh, or Turki Al Sheikh said, look, I can't risk this with you. We're going to do it ourselves. I don't know. But with a smoke, there's fire, Naz, and I can't answer that question, mate. But I'm going to track it down and see what we can do. Tony Clifton, how are you there, mate? Grouse News, my favourite Aussie fighter, John Manu, is fighting again. Yeah. I didn't actually speak too much about that before, did I? Sorry, John Manu and Alexander Deviatov. I was on my Kamako soapbox. But yeah, I'm a big fan of John Manu as well, Tony. I've promoted him, I think, about 3 times now. Really lovely guy. I was going to call him young. He's not so young anymore, but just a real down-to-earth fella. He's got a really good team behind him, and he can fight. More importantly, he's a very, very good fighter. He had that mishap. When was that? Was it a couple of years ago now? He was stopped. Actually, it was back in 2023 against Kurt Scobie. He was stopped in 2 rounds. Now, Kurt Scobie, since then, hang on, I'll just get out of that road, is 16-1. So he had a loss himself last year to Dakota Linga. He was 13-6-3 was Dakota Linga, and he beat him. He's had 3 wins on the trot since then, though. So what is he? 16-1. And John has had since then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins since then, including his last fight against Jalen Tate, which was just a very, very, very impressive blowout of a very highly touted young boxer. So let's hope he gets more opportunities, Tony. Big J, topic chat. Which Australian boxer has the best resume? Who they fought, wins and losses. My pick, Daniel Gill or George Kambosos. Your thoughts? The best resume. Nah, I've still got my money on Jeff Fennick, Big J. Look, Daniel Gill. Well, while we're going, I'll just have a quick look at this. It's probably going to be too much to go through. Might be a walking boxing episode, this one. But I'm just going to go back to Jeff Fennick. All right, and I'll just quickly give you... Now, George Kambosos is pretty easy with him. Look, I think Teofimo Lopez scores him a lot of points, but I know he did fight Loma and he did fight Haney, but he couldn't beat either of them. Before that, I think Mickey Bay and what's his name, Selby, were sort of faded on the downslide. But look, great wins by George. And Daniel Gill, look, he's fought some great fighters out there as well. But I'm just going to go back just quickly. I won't spend too much time on it because, as I said, it'll take too long. But look, I think his first big win, like really good international win, was, strange enough, people will probably disagree with this, was Daniel Zaragoza in 1986. Now, Jerome Coffey was probably his first big fight. He was the American #1 ranked, but he hadn't fought anybody either. He had a good record. He was 26-0, but I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as his record and his rating suggested. But Daniel Zaragoza was a former world champion and a future world champion as well. So he beat him. Steve McCrory, Olympic gold medalist, beat him. Samart Parkeroon was the reigning WBC 122-pound champion. Greg Richardson was the number 1 ranked challenger, beat him. Carlos Arate, even though he was 36 years old, he was still a very, very good fighter and a great. Victor Callejas, very underrated win over Victor Callejas. He was a killer, was Victor Callejas. Tyrone Downs was a good fighter as well. George Navarro was very well touted at the time as well. A lot of overseas people at the time, or experts, tipped he would beat Jeff Fennick. And then a massive one was Marcos Villasana, again, a former, or it might have been a future, I can't remember, WBC champion himself, and he beat him over 12 rounds. Mario Martinez as well. I'm pretty sure Mario Martinez might have fought and won the world title as well. I'm just looking here. No, he fought Azuma Nelson. So he lost twice to Azuma Nelson. Yeah, okay. I don't think he ever won a world title. Fought for one a few times, but never Never got the chocolates. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like. He fought Julio Cesar Chavez. So, sorry, I'm just going over those there. But that was a really good fight for Jeff Fennick back in the day. Then, of course, the Azuma Nelson fight. I think that fight with Azuma Nelson, I think, probably even supersedes George beating Tio, if I'm being honest, and probably anyone that Daniel Gilles beat, including Sturm and whoever else he beat. So for me, mate, definitely Jeff Fennick. But let me know in the chat there, guys, and we'll have a chat about it. All right, Eminem, apparently so you've already said that. Yeah, Canelo Bud fight is going to head-to-head with, UFC on the same date. Yeah, it is. I think it's UFC 317, I think, Eminem. So, yep, and that's, again, maybe another reason why Dana White has pulled out. What's that, Big J? Sonny Bill and Gallon, July 19. So that'll be the day before Tim Tszyu fights in Vegas. So, yeah, big weekend, that one. All right. So that's a big weekend, isn't it? So you've got the Pacquiao, Barrios, and Tszyu Fundora doubleheader. You've got the fights. I think Jesse Bam Rodriguez is fighting that weekend. Obviously, this one as well. And Usyk and Dubois. Now, that's going to be a really interesting morning, that one, of the morning of July 20. Because we're going to have Usyk and Dubois in the early hours, and then we're going to go straight into Tszyu Fundora. What a weekend! Expensive weekend that's going to be. We're probably going to be up for about $100. Well, probably more, probably 120, 130 bucks for those two fight cards that weekend, guys. But what a morning that's going to be. I think I've said I'm going to be over there for it. But yeah, July 20 will be Usyk and Dubois, followed by the Pacquiao and Tszyu doubleheader. Should be awesome. What's that, Big J? Guessing you have ruled Costa out of the conversation. I haven't. Is that because talking about the Aussies? I still don't count him as the Aussie contingent. Sorry, Jules. I know that always gets me in a bit of trouble, but Eminem says Tim Tszyu isn't a great commentator. Re last week's show. I couldn't hear a lot of the commentary, Eminem, because I had to turn it down because I was doing the live watch along. Look, Tim, he's a reserved type of guy. I'm surprised I actually got him on there to commentate. Probably no dramas getting him on just to have a chat about the card and maybe some special comments and that sort of stuff. I wasn't aware that he was actually part of the commentary team because, as I said, I couldn't really hear it. But yeah, look, he's a very reserved, introverted type of guy, Tim Tszyu. So it does surprise me. I understand, in theory, it's a great idea to get Tim Tszyu involved. I mean, he's the biggest name in Australian boxing. But yeah, it's if it doesn't quite deliver on the night as far as the commentary goes, well, probably not a great thing. All right, Drunken Boxing, how are you there, mate? Big J, yes, Aussie born and bred only. Otherwise, Victor, Cheney, and Easy. Yeah, he'd definitely be in the conversation there, mate. Oh, sorry, Big J, July 16th. Well, either way, it's a big weekend. Jeff Horn having Pack and Crawford on his record must put him right at the top, plus Tim. Oh, I don't think Tim's anywhere near it, Jules. I don't think he's even in the conversation, to be honest, as far as the best resume. I mean, his best wins has probably been Brian Mendoza. So that's probably it. So don't want to offend all the Tim fans out there, but you got to call it the way you see it. Although, I mean, he did lose to Fundora and Murtazela, but I'm not really counting the losses here. Should we be counting losses? I mean, I'm going to throw someone else in the mix. I'm going to say Jeff Harding is another one. Fought the likes of, obviously, Dennis Andrews, Mike McCullum. I won't bring up his record here, but he fought a lot of good guys as well, did Dennis Andrews. Just trying to think who else. But, I mean, Jeff had that big win over Pacquiao. But, I mean, Crawford absolutely took Jeff apart, unfortunately, and then that was pretty much it. And he fought Tim Tszyu. So, yeah, look, for me, I don't think there's just me personally. I think it's Jeff and then probably a little bit of daylight. And then it's probably would put Daniel Gilles in there, Jules, for sure. I was going to say Anthony Mundine, but didn't really fight a lot of the top liners, Anthony. Danny Green, probably the same. So for me, it's you even got to go back to the likes of Johnny Famish and Lionel Rose. I mean, I know a lot of the modern day fans don't know too much about them and the guys they fought, but they had great records as well. But I'm still sticking with Jeff Fennick. Because, I mean, and the only reason I'm saying that too, guys, and maybe I'm not fully across the resumes of a lot of the guys back in the 60s and 70s, but I am right across from the 80s onwards. So I remember back when Jeff was fighting all those guys. I remember doing all my research. This is before the days of BoxRec. Okay, all I did was live and breathe boxing. I knew everyone's record and resume, and I knew all about those guys, and they were legit, like real top liners. They weren't just soft targets. They were all very legitimate guys. Very good records, a lot of very well respected, highly ranked. So that's why I definitely rank Jeff. And I think the fights, that first fight with Tszyu and Nelson, I think trumps pretty much nearly anything. Even though it was a draw, that was a win, okay? That, in my opinion, trumps anything that maybe even Jeff over Pacquiao. I know that was a massive one, but he didn't back it up where Jeff did before and after that. And Daniel, I'll have a quick look at Daniel's record. He's obviously his biggest win was Sturm. Where is it? But if you're sort of counting that, you'd almost have to put Sammy Solomon or someone in there, wouldn't you? But anyway, so his last two losses. Well, I'm not going to count Reynold Quinlan, but Miguel Cotto and Triple G had the fights with Mundine. But really, Felix Sturm is probably, and Sebastian Sylvester, I suppose, are probably they would be his biggest win. So I don't think you can have a win over Felix Sturm and who was it? Sebastian Silvestri, that was his name. Sebastian Sylvester. If they're the two biggest wins, I don't think you can really compare him to, say, Jeff Fennick. But anyway, each to their own. Ben Hussein has been hinting at fight news. Could that be Nikita's next opponent? Wouldn't surprise me, Eminem. That's a really good pick if that is the case. I think Ben Hussein, is very well equipped to maybe give Nikita trouble, but I don't think he's equipped enough to beat Nikita. I think Nikita wins that fight, but maybe it could be the exact fight that Nikita Tszyu needs. So I haven't heard anything about it, Eminem, but yeah, it does make sense if that does happen. Anybody see the huge KO Dave Allen versus Johnny Fisher? Same fella that dropped Lucas Brand with a body shot. Yeah, I watched that fight, Tony. Yeah, it was a good stoppage. He put Fisher down more. I don't know, it was exhaustion or just an accumulation, and then the referee stopped it. Within about 5 seconds of him sort of calling them back together. It took a while to get up to, didn't he, Johnny Fisher? But I was impressed, but I don't think either of those guys are real world class. I think they're at a certain level, and that's great. Everyone's at levels. That's what we always say. It's all about levels. Life is about levels, and they know where they are. So yeah, no, it was a good fight. But as I said, definitely not world class. The boys. Naz, Sergey Boachuk fight against Tim's sparring partner went by without much fanfare over the weekend. Boachuk deserves a big fight soon with win over Mendoza and close war with Virgil. I'm with you there, sir. I was about to call you sir. I was looking at his name there. Sorry, Naz. I think so. Why couldn't he put his hand up to fight? What was his name? Murtazalyov. Sorry, all these Russian names. Bakram Murtazalyov. I know it's going to be too early now because Bakram's hasn't got a fight lined up and Boachuk's just fought, but he did call out Fundora, but Fundora's got a fight with Tim. It could be Tim next. I'm not so sure. Well, am I? I was just going to say I'm not so sure Boachuk is a good fit for Tim. He might be, in that Murtazalyov type of mold, but I don't know, maybe his style would be custom made for Tim. I don't know, but Tim's obviously got to get past Fundora first. But yeah, he's a dangerous fighter, Sergey Boachuk. I did see the highlights of it, Naz, and he did a really good job. He stopped him in whatever round it was. Was it a stoppage? I can't even remember. Hang on, I'll just Boachuk. I'm thinking the right fight. Sorry, 10-round decision. Sorry, yeah, he did drop him though, didn't he? Or didn't he? Long weekend anyway. So it was a 10-round decision win, but he's dangerous there, Naz, and I think he will get an opportunity at some stage. It's just a matter of who, because he's not going to get Ortiz again. Fundora and Tszyu have got the fight coming up. Murtazalyov, he might want to fight soon, but Boachuk's coming off this fight. Unless he didn't really wear too much damage and doesn't feel too bad, maybe they could fight in 3 or 4 months. But yeah, he's dangerous, mate, that's for sure. Jules. Joel was also coming off that loss in Dubai against the Filipino, even though it didn't go on the official record. Could that have sent him back? Yeah, maybe, Jules. Look, I think what that did was sort of highlight that Joel's obviously a domestic level fighter, and I know he's got grand visions of or visions of grandeur, whatever they call it. And that's great. You've got to have something to get you out of bed every morning, keep training and keep grinding and all that sort of stuff. But I think the guy that beat him, I won't bring it up there, but I mean, he was a solid fighter, but I don't think he was sort of world class either. As I said, Jules, I just don't know why you'd bother. It's a bit like when they put Jazzy Parr in with that girl last weekend. I don't know why you'd even bother doing a training camp. We know what's going to happen in this fight here. Joel will stop him in the first round or two, and then what? It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Bolchok is a hard fight for anyone. I love his interviews. He's a unit. Yeah, he's a bit loose, isn't he, Bolchok? Anthony Mundine fought Kamako's next opponent's father. I wasn't aware of that, Eminem. Geez, at what stage did he fight him? I don't know. Look, what I will say is that I understand with the pros, it's a massive part of their life that you've got to dedicate your whole life to, and I get it. You're up every morning running and you're doing your strength sessions. Actually, Kamako doesn't run, I don't think he said, but either way, the average fighter gets up and runs, and they're watching their weight, and they're training 2 or 3 times a day, and I know it's hard and the grind is tough. But I don't know. I just don't see it when you're not even challenging yourself. I just don't get it. I'm surely in Australia there's someone that Kamako could fight at 154 on someone, even if it's on someone else's card. Even if he fought probably the 15th ranked Aussie, it's going to be better than fighting this guy. So anyway, as I said, maybe there's something along the lines of he's been promised a fight with someone maybe later in the year. Maybe Hardman's back in training, Isaac Hardman's back in training, and it's been promised to him and he's just having a tune-up. I don't know. But when you're barely going to make a purse out of it because all you've got to pay for your opponent's expenses and everything else, again, I'll say it, why bother? Anyway. Naz, Dave Allen slept Johnny, didn't he? Yep. Fisher got a long way to go, but love how much support he has. He's got massive support, Naz. He's entertaining. Look, as I said, it's not an insult. He's just, in my opinion, he's just not at that world level. But as long as he stays at the level he's at, he's going to be a very entertaining fighter, and he'll probably get some good paydays out of it as well because he's so popular. What's up, mate? Looking forward to living vicariously through you in that big week in July. What a trip. Anyone on the bucket list? Anything on the bucket list in between fight nights? Yes, there is, Naz. It's going to have to be quick, though. So I'm heading off on the 8th of July. Now, if you don't watch Walking Boxing, I am going on my first trip of the year. I wasn't sort of looking to do anything, but when you've got 3 fight nights within a week of each other, there's 2 on the one weekend and then 1 the week after. I just had to swing a few rounds and make it happen. So I'm leaving on the 8th of July. I'm going to head to New York. I'm going to do the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano card on the Friday night at Madison Square Garden in the big arena. I looked at tickets today, and there's not that many left, and that's a big arena. So I'll go to that one. And then on the Saturday night, I'll go to the card with 4 fights on it with Belunga and Shiraz, Stevenson and Zapata. Who's the other one? Puello and Matias and Morale and Mateo, which will be a good fight as well. Then, as far as a bucket list goes, Naz, yes, I'm going to head down to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm going to fly on the Sunday. I think I've got to go via Dallas. I'll go to Dallas, then to Albuquerque, and I'm going to do the Breaking Bad tour. I'm a massive fan of Breaking Bad. I'm only going to be there for 1 day. So I'll get there the night before, the Sunday night. On the Monday, I will do the Breaking Bad tour. There's a bus that takes you on all the filming sites and all that sort of stuff. I know it's corny, but hey, you said bucket list things, and that is a bucket list for me. Then I'm going to drive down to Tombstone, Arizona. And obviously, if you're familiar with the movie Tombstone and the OK Corral and Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to go to the town of Tombstone. And I'm going to check out the town. There's there's different things you can do. You can see the museum and the OK Corral, and they've got the theatre and all that sort of stuff set up. Boot Hill Cemetery, all that sort of stuff. I've always wanted to do it, so I'm going to go to Tombstone, mate. So it's going to have to be quick, but I'm going to go to Tombstone, Arizona. I would have loved to have gone to Fort Sumner because that's where the Billy Kid thing is, where I think he's buried there, and they've got a museum. But unfortunately, it's a fair bit out of the way, and I'm only on a very limited schedule. And then on the Wednesday, so the day after that, I will fly to Vegas. So I'll get there on Wednesday, whatever date that is. So Sunday after the big night in New York, I'll fly to Albuquerque. The Monday, I'll do the Breaking Bad tour, drive to Tombstone, and on the Tuesday, I'll do the Tombstone tour, and then the next day, I'll fly to Las Vegas. So, and then, of course, there for the Tim Tszyu Fundora fight and the Manny Pacquiao Mario Barrios fight. So that's what I'm up to, Naz. I would have liked to have a little bit more time to maybe do a couple of other bucket list things, but I'm getting there. I mean, I made a list the other day. I know, again, I'm getting way off topic here. I'm just going to give you some of the places I've been to in the last couple of years. I mean, where are we? This is some of the things I've been to in the last couple of years. And it's a bit morbid, actually, because a lot of them are where bad things have happened, where catastrophes or terrorist attacks or the war attacks have happened. But listen to some of these. Ground Zero in New York, the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the plane went down, the memorial at the Pentagon, where the other plane went in the building, the Oklahoma City Memorial in Oklahoma City, Daley Plaza in Dallas, where JFK was shot, Ford's Theater, where what's his name? The president, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. Geez, tough night. Where Abraham Lincoln was shot. Gettysburg, where the Civil War was. Pearl Harbor, where, of course, the Japanese attacked. The Alamo, where the big domestic thing, the Mexicans versus the Texans happened. Alcatraz, with the prison, of course. And then, as I said, Tombstone and Breaking Bad as well. And even on the side of that, been to Graceland to see all the Elvis stuff. Muhammad Ali's house, his grave, his center, his training camp. The Rocky Steps in Philadelphia, and to name a few. So that's some of the things I've been to in the last couple of years. That's why my wife says, now, why am I still letting you still go over there? You've seen everything you need to see. So, look, I'm very lucky, Naz, very, very lucky to do what I do, but it's cost me a fair bit of money and a lot of frequent flyer points, I can tell you. But anyway, all right, Eminem, Joe Pataya and Squayo coming up quick. Pataya is must-see TV, yeah. Was that June the 8th? So, yeah, that's a long weekend, that one, Eminem. Should be a really great weekend of fights, that one, mate. Mutzi, can Huni come in under the radar and snatch a title? I worry a bit about his chin and stamina late, but he'll definitely give all he can handle early. The trouble, Mutzi, yeah, is that as the fight goes on and maybe fatigue starts to kick in, I think early in the fight, I would be surprised if Justice dominates the first sort of 5 rounds of the fight, and then maybe we get a bit of the Marius Briedis Opataya situation where he's got to hang on a little bit. He's a big puncher, is Wardley. He's decked a lot of guys, but I think Justice can do it. I think if it's going to come undone, it's going to be sort of 8th, 9th, 10th rounds if he does. But I think, can he snatch a title? Well, the interim title is the interim title or whatever one of the titles are. You never know. But I'm a big fan of his Mutzi, and I think he can do it for sure. How come Jeff Fennick no longer commentates? Yeah, good question, Eminem. I think he's a very, very good commentator. I've just got a feeling that maybe they're a bit concerned that he can sort of go off script a little bit sometimes, Jeff, and maybe rubs a few people up the wrong way. Maybe it's because I don't know, who knows. But the other one is Barry Michael. I cannot believe they don't use Barry Michael in all these big events. Last week, for the Sam Goodman fight, they had Jonathan Brown. I love Jonathan Brown, but he's an AFL legend. Doesn't know too much about boxing. He's a boxing fan. He's had a little bit to do with the Maloneys, and I know he must love boxing, but he doesn't really know a lot about boxing at the level, if you know what I mean. So I don't know why they've got him on there. I thought Liam Paro was good as a special comments guy, but I'm not sure why Jeff Fennick's not there, and I'm staggered, as I said, that Barry Michael's not there either. All right, Naz, like Huni's chances, Wardley hasn't fought anyone with his footwork, hand speed, and skill. And that's why I give him a chance, Naz. I think Justice, I'm not worried about his power. Let's put that aside. I couldn't give a stuff about his power. He's a volume puncher, and there's nothing wrong with that. Alexander Usyk at the top level is the undisputed champion. I think he might even be smaller than what Justice Honey is, and he hasn't got power either. And look at him. He's beaten Joshua, he's beaten Dubois, he's beaten Fury, all at heavyweight. So I'm not worried about that at all. The only thing for me is probably the chin factor, Naz. Whether, if he, as I said before, if his fatigue starts to kick in and maybe he can't move and that a lot, he might get caught if Wardley just hangs in there. But apart from that, I think Justice is a very, very good fighter and could go a long, long way. Yeah, Mutzi, Boachok and Murtazalia would be a great fight. It'd be a war, wouldn't it? I reckon Boachok would be a chance in that. I know we're all sort of up in arms about Murtazalia and what a great fighter he is based on the Tim Tszyu fight. I just think he just caught Tim cold, and it can happen. I want to see him in with a really quality fighter that knows what's coming and doesn't get careless like Tim did, and just boxes a smart fight and just gets through the first 3 or 4 rounds, then we'll see what he's got. And Boachok's got a great chin as well. So that's the fight I would love to see, Mutzi. And I'm thinking Boachok would be a live chance in that fight. Daniel Four, is it? I don't understand why the Apatow Sequoia fight was made. I think that bloke is ranked 14th. Doesn't make sense. I think all it is, Daniel, is a keep busy fight, mate, and that is it. It's not for anything except to stay busy. I think what's happened is we all know that Ramirez is fighting Dorticos on the Jake Paul and Chavez card. I reckon everything's just in a little bit of limbo at the moment, and Jai likes to keep busy. So I reckon his team have just said, hey, look, let's just take a voluntary. Who's available? Who wants to fight? Who's going to agree to terms? Sequoia's put his hand up, and they're just going to get it out the road. I don't think Jai would be too happy about fighting the likes of Sequoia, but this will be second fight within the first half of the year. So he just likes to keep busy. And I think until the Ramirez situation becomes clearer and maybe the Badu Jack situation becomes clear, maybe Badu Jack has said, look, he'll fight at the end of the year. I just think it's a matter of Jai saying, or his team saying to Jai, hey, mate, if you want to keep busy, then just take this guy. There's nothing wrong with it. In this day and age, we just analyse the opponents to death. And I hate to say back in the old days, but the champions back in the old days used to keep busy. They'd have a mandatory, so it'd be a big fight. Then they'd have a voluntary to keep busy, and then they go back to having a mandatory again. It's nothing untoward about it. And I don't know why it doesn't make sense, Daniel. It makes perfect sense to me. He's just keeping busy, purely and solely. Who else is there to fight? Badu Jack's just come off a fight. Ramirez has got his one coming up. Who else is there to fight? There's nobody. The heavyweight situation as well, we could say, oh, we'll go up to heavyweight. Well, we're not just going to give him a fight straight away. He's got to earn his stripes. He's going to have to wait in line between about 5 people, I would think, before they might even think about him. So it's a long time away. Who else is there to fight? David Benavides maybe, but he's purely focused on other things as well. So, yeah, I think it does make perfect sense, if I'm being honest, Daniel, and the way the professional fighters work. He wants to keep busy, give him this guy to satisfy his appetite, and then we'll see how Ramirez comes out of his fight with Dorticos, and then look at the end of the year. Asbot, is Murtazalia back in the ring anytime soon? Not that I know of, Asbot. Nothing happening whatsoever with Murtazalia at the moment, and what's it been? When was it? October last year, so it's been, 7 months since he's fought, and not even a mention of coming back. And I just think it's ironic that the guy that he knocked out in 3 rounds has had a fight since then, has got another one lined up. So Tim will have 2 fights by the time that Murtazalia has had 1 fight. That's crazy. He is a very, very dangerous man, Asbot. And I just think his promotional choices have probably come back to hurt him. He's with the, is it the Finkles? I think it is. No, the Duvers. Sorry, he's with the Duvers. They haven't been big players for quite some time. I just think not being with a top rank or a Matchroom or a Golden Boy has really hurt him, and that's why he's not getting these fights, mate. He's dangerous, and they're going to fight him if they don't have to. And not to mention, who's the other one? Lubin only fought a week or 2 ago, so he's not really going to be ready. He's the highest ranked challenger. Of course, Fundora's busy with Tim. Crawford's busy with Canelo. There's not really a lot happening. Ortiz doesn't want to fight like this on the back of fights with Madrimov and Boachok, so it's just in no man's land at the moment. But I'm just wondering why they can't line up like they're doing with Jai and just give him a voluntary defence. doesn't make sense to me either, mate. But as I said, I just think the fact he hasn't gone with a real major player in the promotional ranks has really come back to hurt him because they just can't get him fights. I mean, you think that if Murtazalyov was with maybe Golden Boy, they'd be sort of looking. Oscar would be saying, "Hey, mate, we'll get you a tune-up fight, defense. We'll get Ortiz a tune-up fight as well, just an easier fight after his 2 tough fights back to back, and then we'll get you together maybe early next year or later this year." That's what would be happening. But at the moment, Oscar's probably saying quite rightly so, why the hell would we want to fight this guy for? He's dangerous and he brings absolutely nothing to the table except the belt. And maybe Ortiz is like, yeah, well, I'm going to fight probably the winner of Tim and Fundora. That'll be for 2 belts. I don't need to smoke with Murtazalyov for the IBF belt. Maybe the other thing too, fighters don't want to fight for the IBF belt because of the rehydration clause as well. Could be an issue as well. There's lots of different reasons, but I just think the main thing for me is that he's not with a major promoter. All right, Jules. To be honest, the longer Murtazalyov goes without a fight, the better Tim looks in my eyes, regardless of the result or how you view the decision to fight. Does no one really want to fight him? Look, I'm not. Well, it probably looks like that, doesn't it, Jules? That no one wants to fight him. I just think no, it doesn't really make sense to any of the guys. Now, if I have a quick look at the rankings here, where are we? The 154 pounders. Put that there so you can hear me. What is it? All right, so 154. All right, so you've got. I think we went through this last week, by the way, but Crawford's obviously tied up. Fundora and Tszyu are tied up. The WBO is going to be fought for between Zayos and Perez, so it takes them out of the equation. I mean, who else is there? Lubin's just fought. Zayos is, as I said, contracted. There's maybe a Josh Kelly or someone like that. Conor Benn is now ranked number 5 with the IBF, but he probably needs a fight within the next 3 or 4 months. There's not that much around him. Jesus Ramos is 7, Bolchuk's 8, but he's sort of out of the equation. It's hard to say. Maybe could it be a Thurman? Strangely enough, for me, the Thurman fight makes the most sense. Keith Thurman, for me, for Murtazalyov, because if he beats a Thurman's obviously a big name, probably the biggest name in that division that's currently available to fight. I'll preempt that, okay? So the others aren't available. Thurman is going to be available. He probably would have been fighting or planning to fight in July or August against Tim. Why couldn't he step in and fight Murtazalyov? Because he's a name. For Keith, it means big things because he's not going to have to worry about the weight. He's coming up from 147, so the rehydration clause is not an issue. It's probably an easier way to get a belt. Probably not. It's Murtazalyov, but it's a winnable fight for Keith Thurman. It's the only champion that's actually available for quite some time, so it makes sense for him. He hasn't got a lot of time left, has Keith in the sport. And Murtazalyov, if he beats Thurman, gets a big name. So that, to me, makes the most sense out of all of those fights for Murtazalyov. But again, just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's going to happen, does it? So, all right, Asbot. I don't think anyone wants the headache of stepping into the ring with a rock-eating Cossack. Yeah, good call. Sucks Bam and Cafu are on the same day as Tszyu and Fundora. Yeah, it's going to be a big morning explicit. As I said before, we've got the Usyk and Dubois fight as well. So that day, 3 big cards. Usyk, Dubois, Tszyu, Fundora / Pacquiao and Barrios, and then Bam Rodriguez, which will probably be on top. It'll be on ESPN. Is that contract? That finishes in July, so I'm not sure whether it'll be on or not. So technically we could have 3 fight cards on that day, which would just be massive. Eminem, yeah, Breaking Bad tour sounds good. Yeah, I know it's a bit wanky, Eminem, but I've been to Vegas so many times, mate, that I don't like to get there until just a couple of days before the event now because I'm not a drinker or a gambler, so to sort of hang around. I used to get there a week or week and a half beforehand, but all the stuff you can do without drinking and gambling, I've sort of done. So that's why I thought I'd throw in a few bucket list things too, mate. All right, Naz, with Fundora, Bolchuk, Ortiz, Zayas, Tszyu, Lubin, Murtazalyov, Ramos Jr., etc., all at 154. Does any of these guys have the ability to go on a run and unify or go undisputed against these other killers? Very good question there, Naz. All right, let's break them down. Your fighters there. I think Crawford definitely would, but he's probably not going to worry about going back to 154. Fundora, no. I think at some stage someone would beat him. I think, well, obviously Tim will beat him, but even if he doesn't, I would think a Virgil Ortiz would give him fits and beat him. Bowerchuk, I think, would be a chance against Fundora, but maybe not against Ortiz. Zayos is very, very raw. I mean, well, to answer your question, I don't think Lubin would. Murtazaliov, no, I think he would beat a couple and lose to a couple. I don't think, no. To answer your question there, mate, I don't think any of the guys, maybe Virgil Ortiz is probably the only one I could see that would be able to beat all the other guys. Yeah, I don't think, Tim's obviously, and Fundora got the fight against each other. Tim's already lost to Murtazaliov. Don't know. Yeah, don't know. I reckon Ortiz is probably the only one, mate. If I had to pick one fighter who could maybe beat all the other guys, it's Virgil Ortiz. All the others would probably win a couple and lose a couple, I would think. Glenn, evening all. Nobody wants Murtazaliov. It's not that he beat Tim, it's how he beat him, and he knows there wouldn't be much money in the fight. Yeah, that's exactly right, Glenn. I'd add Boots to the list, says Glenn. He will move to 154 end of the year, I think. Well, if he goes to 154, Glenn, that's going to turn the whole division on its head. He's probably the one that could probably unify as well. I didn't mention him there. I said Virgil Ortiz, but if Boots Ennis does go to 154, and I'm sure he will at some stage, I think he'll just wait and see how all the cards are going to fall at 147 before he makes up his mind. I think he'll wait and see whether they can maybe come to terms with Brian Norman. Maybe he might wait and see if maybe Manny Pacquiao beats Mario Barrios and wants to fight Boots Ennis. Now, before everyone has a heart attack about Manny wanting to fight Boots, he's just always been that guy. Remember, he was going to fight Errol Spence before Errol Spence injured himself, did he? I can't remember. He doesn't care, Manny Pacquiao. Now, maybe at 46 years old, maybe he should care, especially fighting someone like Boots. But maybe he's just waiting around to see what... Well, there is talk that Teofimo Lopez is going up to 147 to fight Boots. So I think he'll just wait and see how all that pans out. Then I think maybe next year will be the year that he goes up. And you got to remember too, maybe he wants to unify. Don't know. Maybe he just wants it on his resume that he unified the belts. So we'll see. All right, Asbot. Hard to say, isn't it, Naz? There's so many guys in that list that could all beat each other. Yeah, that's my point there, Asbot. So many invariables there, or variables, I should say, not invariables, that it would just, the round robin would just, I think it would just be a mess. And as I said, Ortiz is probably the only one I can see that maybe might be able to take everyone out. But then if Boots Ennis goes up, I reckon, with all due respect to Tim and all the others in there, I reckon the fight potentially could be Ortiz and Boots as the big 154-pound fight. It might be in a year's time or 18 months' time. But I reckon that is the fight at 154 will be Boots versus Ortiz for, whatever belts they throw up. All right. Bud can fight at 154 too. Crazy division. Yeah, I don't think we'll see him back though, Mutsy. If he goes to 168, I'm not sure he'll come back. I mean, I think if he this is a big question. If he beats Canelo, what does he do? I would say there'll be a rematch. I think if he beats Canelo, there'll be a rematch. If he loses to Canelo, I think he'd probably retire. I would think. Yep. I don't see how he'd go back to 154. Could he get back to 154? I mean, he's going to have to put on a lot of weight to get up to 168. And surprisingly, he didn't look too much smaller than Canelo, did he? But yeah, I think if he wins, there'll be a rematch with Canelo. If he loses, I would be probably more swaying towards or leaning towards him retiring. What's that? Can you please give us your schedule a couple of decades in advance that we can look and so we can avoid at all costs? My schedule, okay. I will give you as much notice as I can. I'm just trying to understand the question. Please give us your schedule a couple of decades in advance. Okay. Where are we? The weakest guy in the list is Lubin. Yeah, I agree there, Asbot. If he doesn't get the TO fight, I think he goes straight away, to be honest, to 154. That's Boots Ennis. Yeah, possibly. Well, the other one to throw in there, I suppose, too, is Conor Benn. I don't see Conor Benn as being a real threat to those guys. I mean, you look at the guys you just mentioned before. I don't think he beats Murtazaliov. I don't think he beats Fundora or Ortiz or Tim. I really can't see him beating any of those guys. Maybe someone like a Xander Zayas, who we haven't really seen him have to dig deep or anything yet, has Xander Zayas. So maybe. Lubin possibly. But they're probably the only one. I couldn't see him beating really any of those other guys you had on the list there, mate. Oscar Everingham away. Oscar, Dave Allen win was so hard. It was, wasn't it? It was a real good story, wasn't it? The Dave Allen win. Will they do it again? That's the other question. Yeah, can you believe Conor Benny is ranked 5 by the IBF at 154? Isn't it just great just to be able to just put your hand up off a loss, by the way? You're a 147-pound fighter and you have a loss and you just get ranked at 154 at number 5. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, as great as he is, hasn't fought for 4 years, hasn't won a fight for 6 years, and he just pops up at number 5 in the WBC. That's today's boxing for you. And that's probably the only thing I liked about Dana White's proposal or his plans to get into boxing, is that at least I think the ratings would be legit. The UFC do a very good job at it. That's the one thing about boxing just always just pissed me off. It's just one thing we just cannot get right is the rankings. I mean, how the hell was William School the number 1 ranked IBF challenger to Canelo? And then worse yet, strip Canelo because he wouldn't fight him. It's just crazy. Oscar says Lubin is a beast. Yeah. He's a good fighter, Oscar. I just don't think he's in the league of some of the other guys there. Glenn says Bud ain't fighting at 154 again. I think he probably retires after the Canelo fight. Yeah. As I said though, Glenn, if Bud wins, I would be staggered if they don't do it again. I would think that Canelo will have a rematch clause in there. He is the champion, remember, undisputed champion. I think definitely there'll be a rematch clause in there for Canelo. And if Canelo wins, does there become a rubber match? Who knows? But all right, fair enough. I think he's good. This is Lubin, but just not compared to the other names except Zayas. He's also a bit green. Yeah, we also might have the WBO belt soon, Asbot. Mr. Sir, I spoke to Barry Michael. He said it's about bringing in the new breed. Yes, and Barry knows his stuff. Mr. Sir, just on Barry, by the way, he's got a book launch in July. I think it's July the 12th. So if you're in Melbourne, I think July the 12th is a Saturday. So I'll bring more details. I just remember I'll be away, so I'll miss it. I would love to have been there. But Barry Michael, one of the absolute unsung heroes of Australian boxing, one of the all-time greats, and a fantastic bloke as well. So if you're in Melbourne on July 12th, it's the launch of his book. Get there and support him. Get an autograph and a photo. It'd mean the world to Barry, who's had a tough couple of years. All right, so you guys are having a say about Zayas and Lubin, is it? As in terms of Zayas, says Glenn, not near the top yet, but give him 2 to 3 fights more than he could be. But it's so packed at 154. It does say 254 pound there, Glenn, but I get it. Yeah, it's a massively stacked division, isn't it? Which is good for us fans. And the fact they're all just starting to maneuver themselves to fight each other, I think it's great. Obviously, Tszyu Fundora will be the first one. We've got Zayas and Perez. Canelo, Crawford's out of the equation, of course, with Canelo. But I think the dominoes will fall very quickly over the next couple of years. Well, that's a great fights. Asbot, agree. He has a lot of potential. This is Zayas. I was looking forward to him potentially fighting Fundora, but Stoke Tim's got the nod. Who's Zayas fighting next? His name's Jorge Garcia Perez. Asbot, he has... I won't look up his record. It takes too long, but yep. What is his record? Sorry, he is... No, I can't see him. Sorry, but he's a good fighter. So I haven't seen a lot of him, by the way. When it got announced a week or two, it was a couple of weeks ago, went to YouTube, and he's capable. I think Zayas will win that fight, though. Is that Nyika announced earlier? He's got fight news soon. Well, great to have him back, Eminem. Good to see he's healthy again and ready to go. Jules, I like Brown, but it's a disgrace those opportunities aren't available to the fighters that literally shed blood to build the sport in this country. Those opportunities are important. Hang on, who are we talking about there, Jules? What Brown are you talking about? Oh, sorry. Jonathan Brown. Sorry, Jules. I was trying to think of a fighter. Yeah. I like Brown. Yeah, I'm with you there, Jules. Especially, as I said, when we got Barry Michael and Jeff Fennick just waiting in the wings, who have great input, obviously massive experience and cred. I'm not sure why we've got to have an AFL player. And the other thing was the journalist Peter Bedell up there, who's a rugby league reporter, and I think just has a passing interest in boxing. Not sure why they're getting gigs over people that actually know the sport. Naz, I think Ortiz is the one myself, but Ramos Jr. is pretty good too. In my opinion, he beat Lubin. I'm with you there, Naz. I thought he beat Lubin too. PBC stacked at 154, probably why Tim's staying with them. Yeah, yep, another good call there, Naz. Oh, Asbot. I think Tim can come back and beat Murtazalov, in my opinion. Ooh, I think Tim's hardest fight at 154 is Ortiz. Just my take. Yeah, I'm not gonna count that out, Asbot. I look, as I said, the fact that he got blown out and fought a pretty poor fight. Look, for me, the jury's still out with Tim, though, Asbot. I don't think... Well, I think we can all obviously support him and hope he comes back. But at the end of the day, the facts are the jury is still out. He was blown away by Murtazalov, and that can happen to anyone, by the way. I'm not sort of counting that as my overall opinion of Tim and where he's at the top level. But looking at some of his other fights and even his wins, I'm still... And I know I'm in danger of upsetting most of the people watching, but it's amazing. Since he lost to even Fundora and then to Murtazalov, just going back and watching a few of his fights and stuff, I know it's bad to sort of look at faults, but I've just some doubts have sort of put in my head, or been put in my head, about whether he can really go at the top level. I think there's a couple of things that he really needs to work on now. I hope he can go past them and win and beat Fundora and win the world title and win all the titles. I really do. But for me, the jury is well and truly out with Tim. Can he get to that top stage? And I think the Murtazalov fight, not so much the Fundora fight, but definitely the Murtazalov fight, I think those limitations or flaws or whatever you might want to call them that he had in his game, Tim, was just exposed by Murtazalov. But if he can get a few things right, I'm with you. I think he can beat Murtazalov. I think the first round he actually fought really well. Copped one or two towards the end of the round when he got careless. But up to that point, I thought the first round was actually pretty impressive by Tim. And I thought the second round, he got nailed about halfway through. But I thought up to then, especially that first round, he fought a good fight. I know one round's not 12, I get that. But I think if he went in there with a different sort of mindset and a different psyche against Murtazalov, 100%, I think he could beat him. But for me, the jury is still out. I know there's a few good signs against Joey Spencer. He was composed, he was calm, he was calculated, and I thought it was great. Now I want to see it against Fundora. And if he beats Fundora, then we can maybe look at fights like that. Definitely capable, make no mistake. But and you're probably asking, well, what are those flaws? What are you talking about? I just think sometimes he can have his chin up in the air a little bit. I think he sometimes relaxes a little bit after he punches, and he's susceptible to counters, which I think is sort of what happened to him against Murtazalov, although it was that left hook, wasn't it? I just think sometimes he can pull out with his chin up in the air and get caught. And I just think sometimes that, as I said, he's a little bit slow, getting those hands up after he punches and get caught as well. So, look, they're only little things, but there were signs in the Joey Spencer fight that he's on the right track, and hopefully they've gone back to the tapes and really gone through and looked at what did we do wrong and what can we improve. They're not major things. They're tweaks. If he can tweak those things and get them right, I 100% think he beats Fundora, but then also has a chance against Murtazalov Asbot. So hopefully he gets that opportunity. All right. Ryan, I think Boachuk beats Barkram. When I see him beat Mendoza to a pulp, he was the real deal. Took Crawford to the limit. Yep. Boachuk didn't fight Crawford, though, did he? He fought. That was Madrimov, though, Ryan. If that's the one you're thinking of. But I'm with you. I'll give Boachuk more than a good chance to beat Barkram Murtazalov. Because up until he beat Tim, I wasn't that impressed by Murtazalov. I really wasn't. Which is why I was shocked when he nailed Tim the way he did. But again, that's all he did. He nailed Tim, that first punch, and that was all over. I mean, you go back and look at that fight with Tim, that left hook, the fight was over right there and then. Tim battled bravely to, halfway through the third round, but the fight was over after that first left hook. There was no coming back from that. But I'm with you there, Ryan. I think Boachuk, big chance to beat Barkram Murtazalov. What's that there? Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the rest of your question there. Asbot, I think Tim's hardest fight at 154 is Ortiz. Glenn doesn't agree. Is that right? No idea. Is that you saying that Asbot has no idea, or you've got no idea what he's saying? I don't know. You got to sort it out. I'm with you though, Asbot. As I said, I think he can beat Murtazaliev, and I think you're right. Ortiz, maybe Boots could be the hardest fight there. I'd look if I was ranking the top 5 though, or even the top 10 at the moment with the 154 pounders, I would have. Well, am I actually including Crawford? He's had one fight and now he's gone. I think I'm going to take him out of it. I would think, if I had to rate him, I would say Virgil Ortiz for me is number 1. I would have Fundora at number 2. I would have Murtazaliev at number 3. And I would have, let's see, maybe Lubin at 4, Zayas at 5. Have I got anyone there? Madrimov, I know, but no, I don't think I'd have. Oh, what did I say? So I think it was Ortiz, Fundora, Murtazaliev. Then actually, I'll say Bolachok and then Zayas. That's probably my top 5. I don't put Madrimov in there. Madrimov, I know he looked good against Crawford, but he still lost the fight. And he got beaten handily by Ortiz. And I'd probably have Tim at 6 or 7. I think I would still have Tim. Give me your thoughts. All right, Ali Ugaz, how are you there, mate? I watched the Arena versus Huni fight again. I think Justice should get the win, but worried about Wardley's power. Yep, if he gets caught, it could be an early finish for Justice. Okay, yeah, well, he can punch, Ali. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just hoping and expecting that he boxes smart for the first 3 or 4 rounds. Ali, I think obviously Wardley will be putting the pressure on. I don't think he would probably rate Justice that highly, like a lot of the overseas fighters do with the Aussies. I think he'll probably not give Huni a lot of respect, and that's why I think Justice will win the first 3 or 4 rounds, or the majority of those 3, 4, 5 rounds. It's just after probably the 5th or 6th round is where it's going to be tough for Justice, but I think he can do it. I really do. I think he can outbox Wardley. The only way Wardley wins, I think, is if he nails Justice at some point, which is obviously it's boxing, could be on the cards any time, but I really think that Justice can do it. All right, we've got a super chat. What have we got there? Andy, how are you there, mate? Appreciation contribution. Thanks, mate. We have $10. Really appreciate that. 154, definitely stacked at the moment, in my opinion. Surely Virgil due to fight Fundora. Tim, rematch winner for the full belt. Smash the like button, folks. Yes, thank you very much there, mate. Yeah, I would think so. It would have to be Virgil Ortiz against the winner. It would have to be. Well, he's the interim champion, so you think it'd have to be mandatory for the one belt, isn't it? So the WBO is not at stakes. WBC, I would think they're going to force the winner to fight Virgil Ortiz next, I would think. Maybe Sergey Bolchuk's going to put his hand up to fight. You've got Jesus Ramos Jr. at number 2. So either way, the winner's going to have a tough fight. In that whole division, actually, it's a pretty stacked division. So, yeah, some big fights on the horizon there, Andy, for sure. Sorry, I've missed a couple of comments there. I'll go back. So what happens when I get a super chat? I've got to go right to the end of the chat. All right. That's you guys speaking amongst yourselves. All right, here we go. Ali, Thurman hasn't spoken a word since people said fight Murtazaliev. He went pretty quiet, didn't he, Ali? Went very, very quiet. He was very vocal about the Tim fight. Maybe he's feeling a little bit slighted at the moment that he was brought to Australia to have the easy kill against Brock Jarvis. Then you probably verbally promised the fight with Tim Tszyu. Now Tim Tszyu, of course, knows better than anyone that verbal agreements aren't worth anything, as he found out against Fundora, because he was supposed to get the rematch and was verbally promised the rematch with Fundora. And when they got the belt, they said, I think we'll go a different direction. So, yeah, as I said, Tim knows all about that. But, yeah, Keith Thurman, the opportunity's there. So take it. I would take it if I was him. But you're right. We haven't heard a peep from him since the Tim and Fundora fight was announced. And Murtazaliev said, hey, I'll fight you. Nothing coming from Thurman's end. All right, Naz. Apparently, Jamal has agreed to fight Thurman, but hasn't had a response from Keefe yet. Yeah, okay. All of a sudden, he's got a few options, hasn't he, Keefe? William, I really think Madrimov isn't as good as he's rated, especially in the ring. Don't think he's even in the top 10. What, 7 fights? 7 fights, 2 losses, and I don't like his style. Bolchuk and Barkram would smoke him. I'm with you there, William. As I said, I'm not that impressed by Madrimov either. I just think he fought Crawford, who was just purely in just first gear. The previous year, he'd beaten Errol Spence, I think. And by all accounts, he wanted to fight Tim, and he actually put his hand up to fight Tim before the Fundora loss. And they couldn't come to terms, and for whatever reason, and that's why Tim fought Fundora, and the rest is history. So I just think it was a very uninterested Bud that night. I think he was just fighting for the sake of fighting, and and that's the way it was reflected in the fight. And he almost blew it, did Crawford, but he got the win. And I think we saw the real sort of Madrimov against Ortiz, didn't we? He was competitive. It was a tough fight, but Ortiz won the fight pretty handily, I think. And that's why he's not ranked in my sort of top 6 or 7 there. William, a nectar of the gods. Keefe, Duck and Mel. Yep. Dry Turkey. Bolchuk looked slow, lethargic, feet nailed to the mat, and he struggled landing anything. I stayed up until 1:30 a.m. my time, and I'm very disappointed in that performance. Yeah, I didn't think he looked too bad, Turkey. I thought he did enough that he had to. Look, he's that type of fighter anyway. He is that sort of mauling, sort of awkward type of guy. So, yeah, look, sometimes the good fighters have to fight other good fighters to get a really good performance. Fox was an okay fighter, but someone said before he's a sparring partner. That's really what he is, and maybe an up-and-coming type of guy, but certainly not, in my opinion, in the top, sort of 15 or 20 154-pounders. So I just think Bolchuk did what he had to do, got the win, and it's very hard for these guys when they fight someone so far below them to get up for it. So I'm not reading too much into it. All right, William. As much as I like Virgil, both as a fighter and a person, I think Bolchuk beats him. Did beat him. It was a close one, William. I think it could have gone either way. I did think Virgil got the win on the night, but it was a close fight. It was. But for me, Virgil did enough. Just enough. Dry Turkey. Tszyu versus Boots is the fight the boxing world has been talking about. Do you see it getting made? Me personally, I'd like Gary Antoine versus Tszyu for unification. It's Russell, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I know we're talking about it at the moment. Is it the fight the boxing world wants to see? I'm not so sure. I think there's other fights. Do I see it getting made? Well, when you got Eddie Hearn talking about it, Dry Turkey, you would expect it to be made. Although Devin Haney his dad Bill has jumped on his soapbox in the last few days to talk about this verbal agreement that Tszyu had with Devon, but Tszyu's obviously got a better offer in mind from Boots Ennis. Yeah, look, I do see it getting made. As I said, Eddie Hearn's talking about it, so the odds are it will get made. And a good fight. My only worry is at how well can Tszyu carry the weight against a really big, solid, hard 147 pounder in Boots Ennis. But yeah, it'd be a great fight, Dry Turkey, and yes, I do see it getting made. Pacquiao fighting Boots is the stupidest thing I've heard in a while. He will get hurt, bloody idiot. Yeah, Jack. Yeah, look, but that's I guarantee you, Jack, that Pacquiao put up his hand to fight. Fighting Boots. He'll put up his hand to fight him. Now, I'm with you. I hope you're not calling me a bloody idiot. You're calling him a bloody idiot. I think his team are bloody idiots if they even contemplate fighting Boots, Jake. I think the Barrios fight, he'll probably get beaten, but at least. I don't think he'll get really knocked around too much. I think it'll be a little bit like the Ugas fight, where he'll be in it but just won't win many rounds. But against Boots could really do some damage on Pacquiao. And I'm with you, mate. I will call them bloody idiots too if they decide to put him in there with Boots Ennis. As Tim Bradley said, Boots should avoid Tszyu. I disagree. Lopez is small at 140 and Boots is huge at 147 weight classes for a reason. Yeah, that's the only reason I'd back Boots, Naz. I think style for style and talent versus talent, I think Tszyu is more than a match for Boots Ennis, but the weight and size difference will be massive. I mean, they get in the ring. Lopez, even if he weighs in at 147, he'd probably only get in the ring at 154, 155. Boots Ennis would probably weigh in at about 175. So yeah, I don't like that fight. What's that, Cal? Wouldn't boxing be a different game if it was not for profit? Certainly would be, mate. Wouldn't do it for fun, would you? Dry Turkey, what is your take on the WBO president saying Tszyu indeed said liquor and not a racial slur? Do you believe freedom of speech should give Tszyu a pass, or do you want repercussions for his actions? Good call there, Dry. Look, I'm pleading ignorance here. I didn't think an Hispanic saying that word is racist. I thought only white people could be racist. I don't know. Just call me ignorant. I don't know. This is the way I read the world today, is that people of color can call themselves and each other whatever they want. But if a white person gets involved, that's when it's racist. So even if he did say the word dry turkey, I'm not sure why everyone's getting bent out of shape over it. So I think, and you got to remember, a lot of the guys like Ted, they all talk amongst themselves that way. I've seen it myself. They all call that to each other. I mean, I don't like it, but it is what it is. Freedom of speech, yeah. I mean, is there anything illegal about it? I don't like it. I don't like the word. I don't like people saying it to each other, even if it's just in fun. I mean, it's a shocking word, but it is. It's a free speech. I don't think there's any laws that say you can't say it. It's not socially accepted, but I'm not sure Tszyu should be raked over the coals because of it. I mean, as I said, that's the way they all speak to each other. I think give him the benefit of the doubt. Look, I'll tell you what I do with Teofimo Lopez. And look, the WBO president, Tszyu's, I'm assuming they're talking about maybe sanctioning him or stripping him or something. Are they? I don't know. But I think in this situation, the common sense approach, and I know there's not much common sense in the world these days, I would think the WBO, as he's the champion, of course, would sit down with Tszyu or ring him on the phone, whatever, and have a nice conversation and say, now, Tszyu, we love you, mate, but if you're going to represent our sanctioning body and our belt, we can't tolerate that, mate. So we understand there's a lot of emotions involved and a lot of trash talking, that sort of stuff, but just keep it clean. And, you know, you're a grown adult. You've got to understand the current world we're in, the current climate we're in. We just expect better from you. And I'm sure Teofimo Lopez would say, yep, happy days. But this day and age in the world we live in, everyone's quick to cancel each other and you know, bar them from life, and in this case, maybe strip titles from them and all this different stuff. I think sometimes people just need a bit of a virtual slap to say, hey, mate, wake up to yourself. So I think Tszyu just needs someone to sit him down and say, hey, we understand it gets a bit heated and a bit emotional, but just remember you're representing the WBO in our belt. And I'm sure, as I said, Tszyu would take it on board. Is it that hard? But to answer your question, there should be no repercussions. No, I don't believe there should. All right, Big J. Just saw on Twitter that Sky Nicholson possibly looking at a fight at 122 going down a division. Although Johnson versus Nicholson at 122 is a great all-Aussie fight. The only problem is, Big J, I think they're really good friends. I'm not sure that'll happen, but they should put that aside. I think it'd be a great Aussie fight. I think they're both... No, Shanika Johnson is with Lou DiBella, I think, isn't she? And Nicholson's with Matchroom. But I'm sure they could put that fight together. That'd be a ripper. Good fight, that. I'm sure they've done a lot of round sparring together anyway. What's that, Jules? Re your schedule. I meant that you've been hitting every memorial for a major tragedy a few years after... Oh, sorry, Jules. Sorry, mate. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't mean to have a fascination with it all, but I'm telling you, when you stand in a spot where something like that's happened, it just... I don't get all spiritual and all that sort of stuff, but it just... I don't know. It's just me to stand there in all those locations, to stand in Daly Plaza, right where JFK was shot, to stand on the site where the Oklahoma bombings happened, to stand at ground zero where they've still got the footprints in the pools there, and just, you know, take it all in. That's why I love going by myself most of the time when I do this stuff. I just like to go by myself, to my own steam, and just sit there and just take it in. You know, a lot of people just walk in, oh, yeah, I've seen it. Off they go, yeah, well, okay. They don't take it in. But, mate, I know, again, I'm getting off topic here, but I remember going to the Ground Zero when they were still building the Ground Zero complex they've got there, the memorial. They had the pools there. I don't think they were full though. There was no water in them, and it was all fenced off, and they were still in the construction mode or period of doing it. But they did have tours, and you could just walk around where the actual pools were. But as I said, they weren't full with water yet. But the day I went by myself, and it was really foggy, misty, and you couldn't really see too much. It was eerie. It really was. And to sit there or stand there that day, that was my first time there. To take it in about what happened that day, it really was eerie. And just there's a couple of other things I said there. To be in Ford's Theatre and actually stand next to the actual booth where he was shot by John Wilkes Booth was crazy. The Flight 93 Memorial was just that would probably be the most surreal site that I've been to, if I'm being honest. To stand there and walk down from the hill where the museum and the guest center or the visitor center is there, to walk. It's probably about a 500 or 600 meter walk down the mountain to where the actual crash site was. To walk down there and have the flight path over your head, to look up and just imagine what happened. And when the park operator I was talking to, again, I didn't go on a tour. I just walked it myself, and I was talking to a park ranger there, and when they explained that the plane come in inverted upside down, put yourself in that position on that plane. It just sends chills up my spine. But yeah, just to be at those spots, and Pearl Harbor, to see where the flight path of the planes coming in, to be right where, literally over the ship, the Arizona, I think it was, to be literally over the top of it and watching the flight path coming in. Crazy. Anyway, back to the boxing. But thanks, Jules. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to misinterpret your comment there. What's happened to Paul Upham? He used to be big on the Aussie boxing scene. Good question, Mutsy. He's another one. He'd be perfect to get on those channels. He's very well spoken. Grantley Keezer. Get Grantley Keezer back. If you only get anyone at all, he would be the guy. An absolute boxing encyclopedia. And used to do all the commentary back in the day. I'm not sure whether he wants to be out of it. But I tell you what, if they had Grantley Keezer and Paul Upham, now we're talking, Mutsy. All right, Ali. Fisher versus Allen shows how the UK do shows better. In Oz, the media talk down this level of shows. I think with the fight build, Hardman versus Kamako could be a $30 pay-per-view event that draws attention in Australia. I'm with you 100% there, Ali. This is the problem in Australia. While we don't really get behind the lesser shows, which is a shame. The closest I've probably seen is when Michael Zarafa fought Isaac Hardman. It wasn't a televised show. It was streamed on a platform, I think, on some other network. It wasn't on any of the major ones. The place was packed. It was an electric atmosphere. People were happy to pay not only to be there, but also on pay-per-view. I think probably would have been $30 or $40. We're sort of missing it, Ali. We're missing that $50 to $70 mark underneath, and those $10 or $20 ones that the smaller promoters put on. We haven't got that in-between one. Even to the point, those No Limit on Fox shows, they could be the middle level we're talking about, where they've got Fox behind them. It could be a $20 pay-per-view or $25 or whatever it might be, and be able to put the Hardman Kamako fight on there. You think about it. If Hardman and Kamako was on the No Limit on Fox, so it doesn't have to be a big main event pay-per-view. It can just be a No Limit on Fox event, although it's pay-per-view probably would have to be on main event or KO, whatever it might be. I would reckon they'd get, if it was say $20, $19.99 for Hardman versus Kamako, as an example. I really think they could sell, let's say, 7,500 views. You might think 7,500. Well, a lot of lesser shows that they do for $20. What are they? The Wild Fighter cards. And me myself, we did it back in the day for $20, and we might sell 1,000. No, it was just normal, just everyday cards. So let's just say it was $20. Let's say $30. $30, so that middle range, okay? $30 times 7,500. That is $225,000. All right, let's say $30 and there was only 5,000 people that bought it. It's still $150,000. Plus they get a gate. They could do it in not those little gyms or whatever they put it at. They could do it in another venue. They might get, if it was in Melbourne, I reckon they'd easily get 1,500 people there. So they could easily get another $150,000 through the gate. There's $300,000. Now, the rest of the card with the venue and the production and the undercard and the travel and flights and all that sort of stuff, they could easily get away with for $100,000. That leaves $200,000. So let's say the promoter says, well, I'll take 75 of that for doing my part, or even 50. I think 50 is enough, isn't it? $50,000. Let's say it was $75,000. It still leaves $125,000 for both guys. Now let's just say it was a verbal agreement. The winner gets 75, the loser gets 50. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fight on our hands. So why can't they do it and think laterally? Now, the No Limit boys are very, very smart operators at that level, the top level. But underneath, I mean, those No Limit on Fox shows have been very, very average. Very average. And I understand they've only got a limited budget and they're getting the money from Fox and they don't have any people. They have like 100 people there, which I can't get my head around why they're only doing those small shows when there's massive opportunity with the second tier down of these bigger types of shows. And Hardman Kamako, as I just said there, they could share $125,000 and we have a great pay-per-view. Quick question, would you pay $30 to see Hardman and Kamako? I'm there with bells on. I'm not even stressed about the undercard. Don't worry about it. Half decent, just local fighters, couldn't care less. Hardman Kamako, I'm there paying my $30 without a doubt in the world. Give us your thoughts. I'm going to put this, we'll talk about this on Talking Boxing tomorrow as well. Thank you, Ali. I'm really glad you brought that up, mate. Great topic. Has anything been said about how Ortiz's hand is recovering? I think all I saw, Cal, was Oscar De La Hoya say he's taken an extended break just to get himself right. I'm pretty sure he said there was no long-lasting damage. Okay, I think he said he was just sore. He'd had two really tough fights, pretty much on the top of each other. I think he just said he needed a break. So I don't think it was a really bad injury. It was just sore. Explicit. Crazy how many watched Tyson versus Paul. Could have had the Super Bowl strategy and have a 30-second ad slot cost up to $5 million. If only they knew. Yeah, it was massive. Free on Netflix. Yeah, there's still lots of opportunity. You got to remember too, guys, the whole streaming sort of thing is still evolving. And Netflix, it's a great example there, Explicit. If Netflix suddenly get their head around and go, okay, geez, there's a massive money market in boxing out there. You put on the right fight and don't really charge anyone to watch it. There's massive earning capacity if we put ads on. Great, or sponsors. And that Tyson Paul fight was massive, wasn't it? So it was free to everyone. They would have had a shitload of people sign up for Netflix just to watch it. Even if they only kept a third of those that actually joined up, it's probably paid for that fight a couple of times over. And you're right, they had to put commercials in there or big sponsorship offers. Lots of different ways. You just got to think sort of 3 or 4th dimensionally these days. Someone will work it out. At the moment, I still see the streaming thing. I know DAZN's got it, but they haven't got it anywhere near right if you ask me yet, DAZN. Their model is just get everyone to pay, and whatever money we have to play with, that's the quality we're going to put on. I think there's plenty of room to grow there. Explicit, and that's a great point as well. Asbot, do you reckon that Crawford is really turning up to win the Canelo fight? It's really going to suck if he doesn't. I'd love to see him beat Canelo. Rematch would be enormous. I 100% think he's turning up to win, Asbot. No doubt in my mind at all that Crawford will be turning up and is a very, very good chance to beat Canelo. Size-wise, I'm going to go with Canelo, but geez, I would not be surprised if Crawford wins that fight. All right, William. Buckram's coach Ramos said he didn't think Tim should give it up after his defeat and said that first punch would have knocked most out. I agree, William. If you get a chance, guys, go back and watch the Tim Tszyu fight. That left hook that he got nailed with should have knocked him out. He shouldn't have got up. It was the perfect punch. An absolute, as they say, peach of a punch. Hit him right on the button. He had no idea what had happened, and he didn't recover, as I said before. He would have hit the deck. Head would have been spinning. He would have no idea. He wouldn't have seen the punch coming at all. And that's why he probably had that look of shock horror on his face. And he didn't really have either the smarts or the mental capabilities. He was still buzzing to be able to clinch and hold and all the rest of it. But he's right, William. That punch should have knocked him out, and it would have knocked a lot of people out. It was the perfect punch. And if you look at it again, Tim does have his hand up. Now, a lot of people said, including me, I think at the time, geez, his left hand was just too low. It wasn't. It was right where it needed to be. He just snuck in on the inside of it and hit him flush. End of story. Mutsy, Crawford will be on his bike against Canelo. He was against Madrimov. If Canelo can turn the clock back a bit, I think he'll get him out of there. Yeah, I don't know, Mutsy. The 168 weight does worry me a little bit, though. We have no idea. He looks sluggish at 154. How's he going to carry an extra 14 pounds? If he does carry 14 pounds, it could be 12 or 13 pounds. Who knows? But, yeah, I'm interested to see how well he moves. I mean, Canelo looked like he was in quicksand in his last fight as well, didn't he? So maybe it'll just be a nil or draw in that regard. But I think it's going to be a really, really good fight. But the weight's probably still swaying me towards, and the strength factor still swaying me towards Canelo. But, geez, he's got to do better than what he did against William School. All right, Andy. Ortiz might be the best, but he isn't even a full champ at the moment. He isn't above anyone that is a champ at the moment till he does, in my opinion. Yeah, no, it's a good call, Andy. It's a good call. You're right. He's the interim champion. So, but he'll get his opportunity soon. And geez, whoever wins out of Tim and Fundora are going to have a hell of a hard fight with Ortiz. I think if Tim gets past him, what a fight that would be, Tim versus Ortiz. Make or break for Tim if that was the case in that fight, I can tell you. Do you prefer the overall boxing scene in the US or England if you had to choose one, like presentation, etc.? I used to like the American, well and truly, Richard. What I love about the English broadcast. It's probably, look, the commentators add a lot. I think they're great commentators, the English. I love the crowd involvement, but mate, if I had to choose one or the other, for me, mate, you can't beat a big card in Las Vegas or New York or wherever, mate. It's for me. I've grown up on the US scene, so for me, it's the US, mate. There hasn't really been a lot of big fights in the US in the last probably decade, has there? But I mean, probably the last big one was probably Mayweather-Pacquiao in 2015. Maybe I've missed one, but all the other big fights have all been overseas. But I love the English scene. Richard, I'd love to get over there, and it's definitely on the bucket list. I want to get to England at some stage for a big fight. The stars have got to align. I did actually contemplate trying to maybe work in Usyk and Dubois, but then Tim's fight with Fundora got announced. And then Belunga and Shiraz and the Stevenson-Zapata card got announced. And then the Serrano and Katie Taylor fight was added on just as a cherry on top. That's why I didn't go, but I would have loved to have got over there for that, mate. But at some stage I will. I cannot wait to get over to England for a big fight over there. Is Jamel still in the 140-pound mix? That says double A. I think he is, mate, but all he's done is do a little bit of social media stuff, but no official announcements yet. No. Naz, PBC will try and keep the belt in-house for as long as they can. They've got Lubin, Thurman, Ramos, Jamel. Hope for the WBC enforce the mandatory, mate. You're asking a lot of the WBC for them to force the mandatory. Who is the mandatory, by the way? It's obviously, so they've got the WBC. So what did I say? So you've got, will be either Fundora or Tim. Lubin is not ranked by the WBC. Who else you got there? Thurman is not ranked either. Ramos is ranked 2. And Jamel, well, he's the fly in the ointment is Jamel, because if he decides to come back and says, right, I'm ready to go, I think by the constitution, whatever it is, I think the champion has got to accept the challenge. I think he becomes the mandatory. I think that's the case for the WBC. So if Jamel says, I'm ready to go, I think in the next fight after anyone that might be planned, they've then got to fight Jamel. So if Jamel suddenly comes out next week and says, right, I want to fight before the end of the year and I want a shot at the title, the winner of Fundora and Tszyu will have to fight him. That's the way I read it anyway. Mutsy, Thurman, Jamel would be an interesting fight. Certainly would, mate. It would be a fantastic fight. Oh, yeah, I think I'd still back Jamel to win that fight. If No Limit What's that, Ali? If No Limit build it right, I think they have some great Oz fights at 140. Liam Wilson, Poking Horn, Dib, Redder, and Garside, to name a few. It could lead to some cracking shows. Yeah, Redder's a long way, to go. I think Ali. Harry Garside. I said the other day, Harry and Liam Wilson will be a great fight. I think Harry definitely beats Redder. I think he beats Dib, and I think he beats Poking Horn. Does Harry Garside? A lot of people will be horrified by that. Harry Garside is an extremely talented fighter, and I don't want to hear about the lack of power and he wears nail polish, all that sort of stuff. The guy can fight, and I think the only one out of those other four that you mentioned, Liam Wilson, probably be the only one I think would have a legitimate chance of beating Liam Wilson. Harry Garside. Very, very good fighter is Harry. Just has to do something about that haircut. Anyway, always thought Madrimov would be Tim's biggest threat at 154, says Jules. Before Ortiz and Crawford went up, etc. Still think he's underrated, but 154 is so stacked. If Madrimov goes to 160 right now, he wins a belt, in my opinion. Yeah, I would sort of differ a little bit there, Jules. I wasn't that impressed with him in the Ortiz fight. I was disappointed. It was a close fight, don't get me wrong, but I think I'd still have Boachok and Ramos and Ortiz and a few of the others in front of Madrimov. I'd have him at probably 6 or 7, I think. Tommy Ruckus just bought my ticket for the Bud Crawford dinner. Let's go. Let's do it, guys. Let's get a few more bought there. I'm not sure how many he sold. Actually, I think the other day he said he's well and truly on the way to selling it out. So it should be an awesome night. Andy agrees with William. I had Boachok beating Virgil. Okay. I gave both 6 rounds each, but knockdowns were the deciding factor. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of Madrimov. Sorry. That's why I was surprised. Yeah, Andy, look, I'm not going to argue that Boachok didn't beat Virgil. I had Virgil just in front, but if it had gone to Boachok, I wouldn't have argued. You're right. I probably had it 7-5 for Virgil, and the knockdowns really brought it back, and was there 2 knockdowns? So probably in that aspect, I probably had it a draw then, didn't I? So is there a hint of Pac-Man taking the fight to get his son on the card to promote him? Maybe. There is talk that his son's going to turn pro on the card. He's had 10 amateur fights. Apparently he's got a long way to go, though, Mutsy. And I've seen and heard a few people say that he's nowhere near ready to turn pro. But let me just say, if they do get him on the card, talk about like pulling homeless people off the street to fight people, I think that would be the case. No way in hell would the opponent have any chance to beat Pacquiao's son on his undercard, I can tell you. Any race can be racist. Yep, nobody gets a pass. Yeah, good call there, mate. Teo saying that controversy sells attitude, but making himself look silly and like a proper attention seeker. Calling out Bud now when Bud set the fight Canelo, simply clout chasing. Yeah, well, he does it well though, Andy. Controversy does sell, but not when you bring race and all that other stuff that's taboo these days. Well, race has never been accepted, has it? I get that. But when controversy, yeah, he's right, controversy does sell. But you're right, he is clout chasing. Ali. Unfortunately, Sky still lacks the pop in her punches. Sugar Neeks will be able to keep up with her movements and should have too much power for Sky despite the height and reach advantage. Yeah, I'm with you there, Ali. I mean, I didn't actually say who I thought would win earlier. I think Shanika Johnson would be a good chance to beat Sky. From what I saw against Tiara Brown, Sky just loves to have everything on her own terms, to be able to sit at long range, to flick out a jab, do the little right hook, little check right hook, spin off to the side and reset and go again. She loves doing that. But what Tiara Brown was just get her out of her comfort zone. She wasn't pretty doing it. It wasn't a great fight. And I don't think Tiara Brown's a world beater either, but she fought a good fight in that she really took away Sky's space, and that's all was needed. And I think I think Shanika Johnson is a better fighter than Tiara Brown. I think she would do it. I think she'd close the gap. And I just think Shanika Johnson mightn't be as strong and hard and as aggressive as Tiara Brown, but I just think she's got a lot more skills. And I think she'd be able to close the distance. And when inside, I think she could outpunch Sky. So I would back Shanika Johnson. Naz, regretted watching the MVP press conference last week. The way Jake Paul spoke to a legend like Julio Cesar Chavez was just cringe. Have some respect. Well, I didn't watch it. And Naz, I read some of the transcript from it, saw a few of the pictures. I refused to watch it, mate. And for that exact reason. Disgraceful. Jake Paul is a skid mark on the world of boxing, if you ask me, on the underpants of boxing. He's a piece of shit. Doing great things for the women, though, I will say. But, mate, I just think he's a piece of shit person. Even if a lot of it is playing up to, the crowd and the reporters, all that sort of stuff, you're right. Have some respect. Julio Cesar Chavez, yeah, I mean, he could probably, Jake Paul could probably say you're nothing on your father and that sort of stuff, but to disrespect Julio Sr., piece of shit. That's all he is. How's the KO Lounge going? Not too bad, mate. We didn't really have a good day for the last UFC for Jack Della Maddalena. That was his name. But overall, mate, it's been going well. It's been going good. We've got a few big shows coming up. What I've sort of shown or noticed, though, is unfortunately, unless there's a big Aussie in action, people aren't that stressed about going out to pubs. The Volkanovski fight card was big. We had a big day that day. Tim Tszyu was massive. But the other ones have just been a bit of ho-hum so far. And not just in our venue. Talking to people that have been to other venues around have said the same thing. They just don't get a lot in there, for especially for the boxing. UFC, you get a few numbers in the Sporting Globe and those types of places and the more established big pubs. But, yeah, unless it's at this stage, unless it's Tszyu or Volkanovski, not many people looking to go to a bar or pub on a Sunday afternoon. All right, Jules, it's interesting because some of the local MMA shows have crazy atmospheres. At one point, Hex outgrew the pavilion and moved to Festival Hall. What are they doing that local promoters aren't? Good question, Jules. Very, very good question. Do you think that boxing, with its negative publicity over the journey, have just seen a lot of fight fans drop away? I would think, especially talking to a lot of fans, say, in Melbourne, that they've been really burnt over the years by promoters bringing out the Thais and the Fijians and the Indonesians and that's to come out and get knocked out in 1 or 2 rounds. That does have an effect. I know a lot of fight fans who said, I won't go to fight cards in Melbourne. They're just shit. That's not me. That's them telling me. Because I've said, well, why don't you get down and support the fights? It's not worth going. I'm not going to pay them. And they're expensive. So they don't go. Whereas the MMA shows, sounds like they welcome everyone. They always put on great fights. Good atmosphere, and the tickets aren't too expensive either. So, I don't know, mate. I'm a boxing man. I'll go to all the shows. It doesn't worry me. But that's just what I've heard from neutral fight fans. What's that, Jules? Less shows and more investment in the cards? Yeah, maybe. If I paid $50 for Goodman last week, I'd pay $50 for Harbin versus Kamako or the Russian. Yeah, there you go. Give me your thoughts. Where do you think Opatai versus Zerto might land? Australia, US, or Mexico? I reckon it could be Saudi. Explicit. I reckon it could be Saudi Arabia on one of the cards over there. Well, what is it? I know Canelo and Crawford September, so it won't be then. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in Saudi there, mate. I don't think it'll be Australia. I'm not sure we'll have the dollars here to put it on here. I wouldn't have thought. You never know. Queensland government, the Gold Coast mayor wants the big fights here. You never know. They put a fair bit of money into getting Marius Brutus out here. Was it about 4 years ago, was it? So 3 years ago. So you never know. But my tip would be Saudi Arabia. Moses Atoma fights this weekend. He could get the winner of Huni and Wardley. Geez, that'd be a ripper fight, wouldn't it? Ali, I think Aussie podcasters and boxing media talk down our fighters and fights too much. Talk sport, boxing, hype, every match like it's Ali Fraser which we should adopt here. Yeah, look, mate, I'm guilty of it as well. I try my best to not be too negative, but I just tell it the way I see it, mate. I try not to talk it down too much. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question, though, Ali. I mean, everyone's going to have a different opinion, though, aren't they? Cal Jane, is there a rehydration clause in Canelo fight? If not Canelo, all the way. I'd say there'll be a rehydration. No, there won't be. Cal, no. Sorry, I'll take that back. I don't think there'll be a rehydration clause because when it's when all the belts are on the line, they cancel out the IBF clause. So if it's just the IBF belt, there would be a rehydration clause. But if all the belts are there or more than one, then the IBF, then that cancels that out. So that would be one good thing. The only thing I could probably think of is that maybe Terence Crawford would request a rehydration clause, and you can 100% guarantee what Canelo Alvarez would say to that. He'd just be saying, well, take it or leave it. Canelo doesn't need Crawford. Crawford needs Canelo. So Canelo will just say, all right, we don't get the fight. So simple as that. I can guarantee you all the terms are all on Canelo's terms, 100%. As I said, he doesn't need the Crawford fight. Crawford needs him. He can't get up for the other 154-pounders. He wants that $50, $60 million, whatever it is. He's not going to get that fighting anyone at 154. So it'll all be in Canelo's favour, and so it should. It's for the 168-pound title, so fight at 168. But the rehydration clause, I would think let Canelo weigh what he wants. What's it there, Ali? I should start a boxing touring company for international events. I think a few people would definitely join. And in addition to the boxing, we would be visiting the memorial sites too. Well, Ali, I've been talking about it for quite some time, haven't I? And I am going to do it. I thought about it for these fights coming up, but I've got a few things I want to do in my schedule and that I want to plan. It's not something I'd really bring everyone along with, if that makes sense. But I am going to do it. I guarantee. Might even be before the end of the year. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say, right, there's a big fight somewhere, and who's coming, and I'll put out a cost of what it's all going to be involved and what we're going to do, and then we can do it. I mean, if people want to go to memorial sites or other stuff, then happy days. I was more thinking that if we went to Vegas or something, I'd show you all around Vegas and the gyms and all that sort of stuff. But if there's other stuff you want to do, happy days. Probably let me know what you guys want to do. But I've been thinking about the international tours for a long time. I just haven't done it for whatever reason. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet at some stage and say, right, this is the event we're going to. This is what it's going to cost. Who's in? Let's do it. All right, Cal, think Jamal Ortiz will be Ortiz's next fight. Yeah, it could be. England and Mexico might be top 2 atmosphere for boxing. The problem is they don't have many big fights in Mexico, though, explicit. That's the problem. Tszyu, Fundora, and then Charlo would be amazing. Certainly would. I agree. Harry, okay. Very rare footwork and movement. Great to see him back. Yeah, he's a good fighter there, mate. Ali, would love to see No Limit build Harry Garside similar to Tszyu, where they made him take out the whole division in Australia before facing international opponents. Well, there's a few around for him to fight, though, isn't there, Ali? Because he's got, was it 135? He's got, well, he could probably fight Ibi Bella. Was obviously Liam Wilson. There's maybe Jalen Tate. He's got to get his career back on track at 140. There's a few there as well. So maybe he could fight Stevie Spark, although he's had issues, hasn't he, with injuries. He was coming back, then he wasn't coming back. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Ali, and I think he could do it. I think Liam Wilson, to me, is the only lightweight in Australia who could possibly beat Harry Garside. And the thing is, what you got to remember, I know the talk comes about the lack of power and all that sort of stuff, but the guy's just super fit, so much endurance, and the way he punches, and he's just got it all, Harry. It just comes down to whether he's got it inside, whether he wants to be a pro boxer or not. Jake Paul with the controversy sells too. Yep, it might sell, but sadly for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion. I suppose all the drama lovers gobble that up too. They do, mate, unfortunately. If Apatow fights Zerdo in Australia, I'd travel to Ayers Rock to see it. Would be a ripper, wouldn't it, William? Explicit. Jake Paul hates started when news came out he was forcing his group members for content back in 2017, 2018. I wouldn't have a clue. Explicit. I don't follow him on social media or YouTube or that sort of stuff. I just think he's, right from the word go, I just think he's, as I said before, he's a stain on the jocks of boxing, and I just don't think he's a good person. What's that, Ross? I've been on a trip to the US, with me, for Horn Crawford. It was a great thing. Lynden knows his stuff. Thanks, Ross. Yeah, well, I've done it a couple of times. Uncle Ronnie's been over. Uncle Ronnie Piggin, we've been over together quite a few times. But yeah, Ross, you came with us for Horn Crawford. Had another friend, Adrian, who come for the Danny Jacobs and Canelo fight. So if that's what you're sort of looking at, then 100%. What it would probably entail, it would probably only be a week though, guys. I know everyone's got jobs and all that sort of stuff. So what it would probably be, we would leave probably on the Saturday, it might be a bit over 7 days. So we'd probably leave on the Saturday, and we'd be back on the Tuesday after the fight. So you'd be away to get there on the Saturday at 7. You'd be away for about 9 days. That's the way we'd be. All right, that's how long away we'd be. We'd all meet at a particular airport, whether it be Melbourne, Sydney, whatever it is, what's nice and central for everyone. Preferably Melbourne, because that's where I fly out of. And then we would go to, let's say it's a Vegas fight, we'd fly to LA. jump straight on a plane, or even better, get a van and we would drive to Las Vegas. I'd probably, if I took a tour, I'd probably drive. Get a minivan or something like that, and we drive from LA to Vegas, which is a 4-hour drive, but it's a really cool drive. It really is. You're in the desert. There's a few really good stops along the way. So we'd do that. Get to Vegas, probably have a bit of a welcome sort of party. See if we could line maybe someone up to come and have a beer with us or something. Someone that we can get local, a fighter or trainer or whatever there. And then take you around to all the gyms. We'd obviously go to like the press conference, the weigh-in, and whatever else we could get into. Show you a few of the sites around Vegas. No real timetable. Just this is what I normally do with people we take over. All right, we'll meet. This is what we've got sort of planned. And at dinner time, we'll meet at 6 o'clock at this particular venue. And you can do what you want. You can either come with me on the tour to show you different stuff, or you can just go off and do your thing, and hopefully we can catch up for dinner every night. That's about it. So. But it is fun when you got a few years that go. 9 days. That's right, Ross. That's right. All right, Ali. On this day in history, I think you missed the Green Mundine fight. Might be my mistake though, and you did talk about it. I did, mate. I missed it on the actual day, but I spoke about it the following day. I did pretty much a whole walking boxing episode on the Green Mundine fight, and just that perfect storm of just everything: drama, hate. Egos, you name it. It was a clash of everything, and it had everything. And the fight itself was a good fight. I mean, Anthony Mundine won the fight quite clearly, but as far as what it did for Aussie boxing, just massive. And I did say the only fight I saw before that all Aussie fight that sort of compared for me anyway was the Barry Michael Lester Ellis fight in 1985. But I think I was only about 10 years old or 11 years old when they fought. Green Mundine was a whole different story, and what that did for Aussie boxing was probably still being sort of felt to this day, isn't it? So, what's that, Jack? Agree on Garside, great skills, but things he has said makes me think his heart isn't in it. Yeah, I do tend to agree with you there, Jack. I don't think he's willing to go through a hard fight where he gets hurt based on some stuff he said. Yeah, well, that's the thing that's been my biggest question, Jack. Has he got it inside to dig deep? I've got no doubt he's got heart. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But whether he's got the desire to want to be in a fight like that, to go through those brutal training camps for really tough 12-rounders, to have someone in there that's really world-class, not someone who can sort of do what he wants. All the fights he's had so far, he's been able to pretty much do what he wants. But maybe the decision will be made when someone sits on his chest for 10 rounds or 12 rounds and really pushes him, really knocks him around, really makes him dig deep. When he gets out of the ring, whether he wins or loses, will he say, yep, I can do this, or no, this is not for me? You don't really know until you've been in the position. And so far, all the 4 fights he's had, he's been able to do it. He's wanted to. They're all been really well matched for him. He hasn't really had to dig deep or do anything. He's gone, 10 rounds twice, was it? Or at least once? And did the journey no drama. So that's not an issue. But it's when someone who's elite and world-class drags him to those depths, I suppose. Has he got the ability to go deep? And that's the big question. I got no doubt he'll have heart and ticker and all that sort of stuff and courage. But whether he wants to go through that continuously at that level, well, that's a decision he's going to have to make. I've seen Teddy Atlas talks about his top 10 boxing movies. What are your top 5? Well, I've actually done videos on this before, explicit. Now, of course, the Rocky movies would probably take up the first 4 of those, but I'll group them all together. I actually did a video on my top 10 and my worst 10, and the worst 10 got a lot more reaction than the best 10, because I had some movies in there that upset a few people, including Creed. I didn't like Creed. Don't like it. I liked the storyline of Creed. Just didn't think Michael Jordan pulled it off being in that role, especially in the boxing part. It just fell flat. It looked so ridiculous. A bit like ridiculous. It looked a lot like Jake Gyllenhaal in Southpaw. Just shocking boxing ability. Pretty hard to have a realistic type of movie with everything, and you got a guy in there, it looks like he has no idea what he's doing. So that's why I didn't like it. But my favourites, Rocky 3. If I had to separate the movies explicit, I'm going to talk all the Rocky movies together, but Rocky 3 is my favourite. I loved Cinderella Man. I liked, what's the comedy? The Great White Hype. Loved The Great White Hype. What's some of the other ones? Just trying to think. Hang on, let me. I won't do it now. But yeah, that would be it. Rocky 3, Cinderella Man, The Great White Hype. What was this? A couple of other ones. Well, they're all sort of Rocky movies, aren't they? There's been a couple of good ones out there, but Creed's not one of them. Didn't like that at all. Next week I'll let you know explicit. I'll have a look back through my list. Actually, I might even have them still on my phone because I wrote them down. Top 10. No, I haven't got it. I've got rid of them. No, sorry guys. I'll have a think about it. All right. I was in Sydney last week, says Ali, for the fights, and at the press he mentioned he goes through these thoughts that he doesn't want to fight or hurt anyone prior to a fight. Seems strange. Yes, probably not the sort of comment you want when you're about to lock horns with someone. You don't really want to fight or hurt them. I mean, it is a pretty tough sport. This is not the amateurs where it's just tap, tap, tap and you go over the scorecards. This is a brutal business. So if you got that mentality to start with, probably not a great sign. But anyway. D-Style, how are you there, mate? $2. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate it. Love being on your show last week too, mate. So, yeah, Cinderella Man, great movie. Trip to Vegas could turn out to be a Hangover 4 party. Yeah, it could. Oh, sorry, Hangover Part 4. Could be AA. Look, I'm not that much fun to go with, by the way. I go for the boxing. All right, so if you're going over there and party and gamble and all that sort of stuff, that's great. But you won't be dragging me along. Because I love Vegas, but I probably wouldn't go if the boxing wasn't on. It's not really my cup of tea. I've been a few times without the boxing, and it was okay, but not really my thing. But I go for the boxing. So if you come with me, I'm just every day up all around the boxing event. So, but doesn't mean you can't go and do your own thing, just as long as you turn up to the fight or the weigh-in and the fight's probably is what is compulsory anyway. What's that, Colin? Hey, brother, shout out from Warrawandu. Colin, Josh, how are you, Colin? Thanks, mate. Appreciate you tuning in there, mate. Great to have some new viewers. Good stuff. And hope. Where is Warrawandu? I'm going to have to type it now. Hang on. Hang on, let me type it in. Warrawandu. Sounds like Western Australia or somewhere, is it? Maps. Is that Western Australia? Yes, is it? I hope I got that right there. Colin, thanks for tuning in, mate, and really appreciate it. Now, where are we? I've got a couple of comments to go before we finish up there, guys. All right. Sorry, I've lost my way here. All right. Tour concept sounds great. I'd be a definite. The semi-formal outline you just mapped out sounds ideal. No suitcases with wheels. Now, that is a gift. Now, Jules, you know how I feel about the no suitcases with wheels. But I must admit, the last couple of times I've gone, I've done exactly that. And you know why? So I thought everyone else is doing it, I'm doing it. Doesn't mean I've got to like it, but I did it anyway. I always just take travel on anyway, guys. That's the other thing. We don't wait around all day for the bags. All right? You come along. The most of the time it's going to be hot in Vegas, so you only need a couple of pairs of shorts, 6 or 7 T-shirts and a hat. Make sure you have a hat and some sunnies and some good footwear. You do a lot of walking. Don't just bring thongs, or that might be good around the pool. Good running shoes, okay? We do a lot of walking, all right? So not a big repertoire as far as clothes goes. If you want to go out and party and go to clubs and that sort of stuff, we'll obviously bring the clothes. But I'm telling you, all you need is a couple of pairs of shorts and half a dozen T-shirts, and you're golden. But yeah, the suitcases we will. Yeah, sorry, I was just saying that. A carry-on only, no suitcases. Enough you can just stuff it in overhead, and when we get off the plane, we're gone. None of this waiting around the turnstile stuff, because that's very frustrating. All right, a couple more before we go. Garside could be a massive asset for No Limit. All those fights, plus John Manu, Bella, Tate, he would headline about 8 pay-per-view shows leading into the Wilson fight. Would stop reliance on Nikita and Zarafa. Yeah, good call there, Ali. Yeah, Raging Bull, good movie there, Andy. It was good too. Too focused on drama in the fight. Yeah, I agree. All right. It's Jules. The way Harry's talking is that he will move quickly and either fail fast and move on, or win something and get out. I think he has a focus as long as he's winning, but not to rebuild and go again. Yeah, a really good call, Jules. I tend to agree. I think he's going to say to No Limit, right, I want to have a big international fight, inside 7 or 8. Yep, I think he'll have 3 or 4 Australian level fights, and then he'll want a big fight. And if he doesn't make it, then he'll walk away. And before people say, "Oh, he can't possibly fight anyone at 7 or 8 fight," hey, he's an elite amateur, which means he's an elite fighter, a bronze medalist. Look at someone like Andy Cruz, who's had a handful of fights. He's looking at world titles as we speak. So I don't sort of go with the opinion that just because he's had a handful of fights doesn't mean he can't fight those good guys. Loma did it. I know Harry's not Loma, but he fought for a world title in his second fight. So I think Harry, between 8 and 10 fights, could fight a big international fight, no problems. Toby Bartlett, how are you there, mate? Good morning from the UK. Great to have you along there, mate. I was just saying before, I can't wait to get to England and go to one of your fight nights over there. Ali, thanks for the show. Love it as always. Good stuff, Ali. Thanks very much, mate. Well, that's going to do it. We are right on 9 o'clock. Just a quick one. Of course, walking boxing every morning on Wednesday night. Look out for the polls on Instagram tomorrow. I'll put them up. But on Wednesday night, we're going to do the best versus the best in the dream fights. Okay, so we're going to go from heavyweight right down to light flyweight of the best dream fights, in my opinion, that can be made. Okay, so we'll go through them on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. live here on the Boxing Deep Dive YouTube channel. So, guys, hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.